He noticed the way she took her tea. He remembered it without being asked. She thought that meant something. It did mean something, just not what she thought. For 4 months, he was the best thing in her new city. Then she found a document in a printer tray that was not meant for her. One name, one word, and the whole story collapsed. He was never there for her. He was there for what she had access to. 4 months earlier. Her name was Amara, 29 years old, a new city, a new job, a new life she had decided to build entirely on her own terms. She was not looking for anything except a fresh start. She was very nearly right about that. On her first morning, she stepped into a glass elevator on the ground floor of a Lagos high-rise. She was carrying a box of her belongings. She pressed floor 14. She had no way of knowing that the most important thing that would happen to her that morning had nothing to do with the job. The elevator stopped at floor 7. The doors opened. A man stepped in. He reached for the button panel, pressed 14, so did she. Neither of them said anything. Then he made a joke about his coffee. She almost smiled. Almost. She would think about that almost later, after everything. She would think about how different things might have been if she had simply not almost smiled, if she had kept her face completely neutral, the way she usually did with strangers. But it did happen. And he noticed, and that was the beginning. They stepped out on the same floor, turned in opposite directions. Both stopped. Both turned back. They were going to the same office. She thought it was a coincidence. It was not a coincidence. His name was Kofi Mensah. He was an architect. He consulted at her firm 3 days a week. He held the door open. She walked through. She thought it was a chance meeting. It was not a chance meeting. Over the following weeks, something began to form between them. Small things at first. He noticed she took her tea with no sugar. He remembered it without being asked. Nobody had ever done that before. He made her laugh in a break room on a Wednesday afternoon. She did not want to laugh. She laughed anyway. She worked late most evenings. The office emptied around her. The city blazed through the windows. She told herself she preferred it this way. She had been telling herself that for a long time. One Tuesday night, he appeared in the doorway of the empty office. He saw her alone at her desk. He could have kept walking. He did not keep walking. They went for suya at the ground floor restaurant. He said 1 hour. They stayed for 3. She told him about the apartment with the window that looked into another window. He listened the way people listen when they are genuinely interested and not simply waiting for their turn to speak. She had forgotten what that felt like. 6 weeks later, her best friend Linda came to visit. Linda took one look at Amara and said the thing best friends always say when they already know the answer. Amara paced. She explained. She tried very hard to sound casual about a man who had sent her a 7-minute voice note just to make her laugh before a difficult presentation. She did not sound casual. They walked the Lagos waterfront at golden hour. The city was loud and warm around them. They had been talking for an hour about everything and nothing. The way you only talk with someone when being near them feels like the most natural thing you have done in years. She had not felt this way in a very long time. She had decided to stop feeling this way in a very long time. And yet, he stopped walking, turned to face her. He said he had not been looking for anything when she stepped into that elevator. He said he did not take her lightly. He said it like a man who meant it. She believed him. That was the most expensive mistake she would make. She stood at the waterfront railing and looked out at the water. A door inside her that had been closed for a very long time was standing open. She made a decision. She stepped through it. She told him she was disciplined, not sad. She had learned to be. She did not tell him what had taught her. Not yet. They walked back along the waterfront, closer than before. Not touching. Almost. The city lights came on around them. She thought this might be the beginning of something real. She was right. She just did not know yet what kind of real it would turn out to be. The canceled dinners started in the 4th week. She sat on her bed in her going-out dress, phone in hand, his voice apologetic on the other end. She told him it was fine. It was not fine. But she said it anyway because she did not want to be the person who made things difficult. She had spent a long time not being that person. She texted him 3 words at midnight. "Are we okay?" He read it immediately. He did not reply immediately. At 2 in the morning, her phone lit up. "More than okay. I will explain everything soon, I promise." She read it 3 times. Something in her stomach moved. Not excitement. Something older than excitement. Something that had learned to recognize a warning even when it arrived wrapped in warmth. She called Linda. She said she did not want to overanalyze things. Linda told her that asking the person you are falling in love with why they have gone quiet is not overanalyzing. It is a conversation. Amara heard the word Linda had used, falling in love. She had used it herself first. She had not meant to. It was a Thursday evening. The office was empty. Amara went to the printer to collect her document. There was already something in the output tray. Not her document. Someone else's. She picked it up to set it aside. Her eyes caught a name at the top of the page. A property transfer document. The buyer listed was Kofi Mensah. The seller was someone called Grace Addo. Grace. She had heard that name once, weeks ago. A phone call Kofi had ended quickly when she walked into the room. She sat down at her desk, opened the company database, typed the name. The file loaded. She read. Her hand went completely still. Grace Addo. Previous client of Dasalu and Associates. Property dispute. Resolved 18 months ago. Lead consultant on the case. Kofi Mensah. Relationship to client. She had to read it twice, not because it was unclear, because her mind needed a moment to accept what her eyes had already understood. Spouse. The printer hummed. Somewhere in the building, a door closed. Amara sat very still in the empty office, holding a document that was never meant for her, understanding everything. The next morning, he arrived at the office smiling, his usual smile, easy, warm, real, or what she had believed was real. She did not look up from her desk when he approached. She asked 4 words. The smile stayed on his face for exactly 1 second too long. That 1 second told her everything she needed to know. Before he said a single word. He said they were separated. He said it had been over for more than a year. He said the divorce was being processed. She let him finish. Then she said it. Not loudly. Quietly. The quieter version of the same sentence is always the one that lands harder. She said, "You told me you were not with anyone." He had no answer that was good enough. There is no answer that is good enough for that. She stood up, picked up her bag, looked at him one last time. She said 3 words. "I trusted you." 3 words that carried the weight of 4 months. 3 words that carried the weight of every canceled dinner and late text, and warning she had felt in her stomach and talked herself out of believing. 3 words that closed a door she had only recently learned to open again. She walked past the elevator. She took the stairs. All 14 floors down. She needed the 14 floors. She needed the concrete and the harsh light and the sound of her own footsteps. She needed something real. 1 week later, Mr. Dassalou called her into his office. He said he was going to ask her something directly, and he expected a direct answer. The Henderson account had filed a complaint. Confidential design elements from their project had appeared in a competing proposal submitted by another firm. The lead consultant on that competing proposal was Kofi Mensah. Amara sat very still. She asked one question: was Grace Addo connected to Henderson Holdings? Mr. Dassalou looked at her for a long moment. Then he said it. Grace Addo was the majority shareholder of Henderson Holdings. She had been since her father left her the company 4 years ago. And the whole story rearranged itself inside Amara's mind like a photograph finally coming into focus. Slowly, horribly, completely. Kofi had not arrived at Dassalou by accident. He had not stepped into that elevator by accident. He had not noticed her tea or sent her voice notes or walked beside her closer than before by accident. He had needed access. She had been the access. She thought about the elevator, the first morning, his smile, the coffee, the architectural drawings, the way something had crossed his face when she said her surname, Osei. He had already known who she was. He had already known which floor she worked on. He had been waiting for her. She said it out loud for the first time, quietly, to nobody in particular. He was never there for me. Mr. Dassalou said nothing. There was nothing to say. Sometimes the most honest thing another person can do is stay silent while you arrive at a truth they already knew. She went home. She sat on her sofa in her work clothes. The apartment was quiet around her. The plants on the windowsill, the curtains she had chosen. All the small signs of a life she had built carefully and deliberately. She allowed herself 1 hour to feel everything. The anger, the humiliation, the grief of something that had felt real and was not. She gave herself 1 hour. Then she picked up her phone. She called Linda. She said 4 words: "I need a lawyer." She went to her wardrobe. She took out the blazer, the deep navy one she had worn on her first day, the one that had said to everyone who looked at her, "Do not talk to me." She put it on, looked at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was not the woman who had stepped into that elevator 4 months ago. She was something older, something more certain, something that did not need to be told twice. She looked at her own reflection for a long moment. Then she said it quietly, to herself, the way you say something when you want to make sure you remember it. You should have listened to the blazer. She picked up her bag. She walked out. The city was warm and golden around her. She had somewhere to be. The following morning, Kofi was in the lobby when she arrived. He moved toward her. She did not slow down. She said 4 words without looking at him. "My lawyer will call." He reached out and took her arm. She stopped. She looked down at his hand on her arm. Then she looked up at him. She had been in this exact moment before. The same gesture, The same lobby, a completely different woman standing inside it. He said what he felt for her was real. Whatever else he had done, whatever she now knew, he said what he felt was real. She stood inside the elevator and looked at him through the closing doors. She looked at him long enough that he thought she might believe him, long enough that she made sure he was watching when she decided she did not. Then she said it. The problem, Kofi, is that real is not enough. The doors closed. The elevator went up. She pressed 14. She did not look back. She never looked back. Below her, the lobby shrank. The floors passed. The light above her grew warmer as she rose. She was going back to her floor. She had work to do. 4 months later, the Henderson case was settled. The competing firm paid full damages. Kofi lost his consultancy license pending investigation. Amara received a promotion. Her new office had a window, a real one, that looked out over the entire city, not into another window. She had earned that view, every single inch of it. Linda came to visit on a Saturday. They sat on the floor the way they always sat, takeaway containers between them, the city outside. Two women who had been through something together and come out the other side of it unchanged in all the ways that matter, and completely different in all the ways that count. Linda asked how she was. Actually, Amara thought about it properly before she answered. She said she was good. Actually, there's a difference between fine and good. Fine is what you say when you are managing. Good is what you say when you have arrived somewhere. She had arrived. Linda raised her drink. To knowing the difference. Amara raised hers. To knowing the difference. They clinked. Outside, the city kept moving. Lagos at golden hour. Loud and vast and completely indifferent to the private victories and private losses of the people living inside it. The way cities always are. The way they always will be. Amara stood at her window and looked out at it. The same city that had overwhelmed her on her first morning. The same city she had walked through at golden hour, believing in something that was not true. The same city that had watched her rebuild. It had not changed. She had. And sometimes that is the only thing that needs to happen. Every story you just heard was about one thing. Not betrayal, not revenge, not money or power or secrets. It was about the moment a person decides who they are going to be. After. After the lie is discovered. After the trust is broken. After the floor gives way underneath them. Amara decided. Deanna decided. Danielle decided. And every single one of them became more than they were before the thing that tried to break them. That is the only plot twist that ever really matters. If this story stayed with you, then you are exactly who this channel was made for. Subscribe, because next Thursday there is another story waiting. Next Thursday,